All right, so this first video is going to be how to connect to the EQOA Sandstorm server. I'll do a video kind of covering what the game is and why you should play it in another video. I'll also do guides for characters, maybe some other things, right? I mean, I should give a gist, right? So if you're new and you don't know what this game is, this is a game released in 2003 on the PlayStation 2. It was the first MMO to ever be released on the PlayStation. It had full online capabilities. It had a full seamless open world that was very, very large and still is very large by today's standards. Um, and it was a very streamlined version of EverQuest, similar to like what World of Warcraft did, right? Like World of Warcraft really took off because it took the success of EverQuest and it built upon it while streamlining and getting rid of a lot of dumb features like corpse running. So and the fact that you'd have to rest every 5 seconds at every single. Actually, no, Classic WoW is still kind of like that, so they never get rid of that. But this game did kind of cut a lot of the fat off of EverQuest. It's the same world, same classes, same premise, 500 years in the future. But in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of people, it's a better version of old school EQ. Most people will debate that, but I've never met a person who I know personally or even online that's ever played this game and has anything negative to say about it. It is very dated. You will have to play on an emulator, specifically a PS2 emulator, because there was never a PC port. And the server is still a work in progress. It is the only running server. They've taken years to get to this point. The game is pretty much playable up until level 49, level cap being 60, and is a lot of work, a lot of effort, and but the game is a lot of fun, and it's my childhood. I played it when it came out in 2003 when I was only like 11, 12 years old, and I played it for like 6, 7 years. I think I played it all the way up till 2010, and then by then I had a good computer, so I transitioned to Final Fantasy 11, and I had already started playing Final Fantasy 11, and then I transitioned to like shooter games and things like that. So that being said, if that remotely interests you, I do recommend the game to new players as well. I'll make a video giving you the tools you'll need to succeed in the basics of the game and like what you can expect. But this is just mostly how to set it up and connect, which is it's really not that hard. It's just a little bit of extra steps, right? So the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the website, which is eqoalive.com. Well, not .com. It's just eqoa.live. Okay. You're going to ignore all this because this is old and they should probably update their site at some point. And like everything here is super old. You're going to want to come down to patch files and you're going to want this Frontiers patch. Frontiers is the expansion for the game. So this is the most updated patch file that they have. This patch file includes all of the network information, so you do not need to do any of this. So you're going to download this, right? Hold on to it. You're going to go to PCX2.net downloads, and you're going to download the latest stable version installer, and you're going to install that, okay? Once you install that, what ends up happening is you get a My Documents folder for PCS X2 that you just installed. And this is like where we're going to put everything. So you're going to take the patch that you downloaded from the website and you're going to put it in cheats. Okay. So you're gonna put it in here. I have two because I have I have mods. So I have other cheats in here, like other mods. So like an ultra wide, a widescreen mod, a 60 FPS mod. Like you don't need to worry about those. You're just gonna have this one in here. That's all you need to play the game. Okay. So what else do you need? Right? You're gonna need a BIOS. Okay. And you're going to need a copy of the game. So I cannot tell you how to get those, or I can't show you anyway. But like I'm gonna not like I can't tell you, right? It's technically it would be illegal, immoral of me to tell you that you could technically Google search, PCSX2 BIOS on Google, and it'd probably be one of the first links, but that would be a really immoral thing and link you to a very immoral site that will get you a BIOS, which then you will download, and then you'll just throw it in this folder, and then you're done. Okay. I can't tell you to do those things, but, um, you know, if you're a terrible, immoral, illegal person, you would do those things. Okay. And then you need a copy of the game. You need an ISO file. Okay. So I also can't show you that, right? But eventually, you'll probably figure out that you could do the same strategy you did the first time and Google EverQuest Online Adventures Frontiers ISO or ROM, and then you might find in a very illegal site like CoolROMs or something similar that has it hosted. And you could do the very illegal, immoral thing that I cannot condone you to do, which is to download that and then create a folder somewhere and then put that ISO file in there. I cannot tell you to do those things. It's very immoral, very illogical. I would never do those things. I am a very upstanding, good citizen. Okay. So after all that's done, you can load it up. Your first time loading, it's going to tell you, hey, I need a BIOS. It's going to direct you to the BIOS. You're going to direct it to the My Documents folder, right? That you had where the BIOS is. It's going to direct you, hey, I need a game folder. So your game folder can be anywhere you want. You don't have to put this on your desktop. You can put this anywhere. Mine's right here. So this EQOA folder is my game folder. Like if I put any other ISOs in here, like that are PS2 related, they'll show up in here too. And like this is like a game list, right? But I'm only playing EQA. I don't care about the rest of the shit. So you can put EQ in there. It'll show up in here once it detects it. And then you're pretty much good to go. The only things you need to do, right? So if we go to, just open any of the settings, or we're going to freeze. Okay. What are we doing today? Like, what is this? Hello? Sorry. I don't know. My OBS was freezing earlier too. It's weird. Let's just go to system settings, right? Backend cubed. I think my stuff changed. Anyway, things to do. So you have your BIOS in there. You're going to set all your emulations to 100%, by the way. You don't want this to fuck up. Sometimes you can hit these controls in action. I'll show you how to get rid of these controls, but like if you fast forward or slow motion in game, you will just get disconnected because it's technically cheating. It will give you super speed. The devs don't want that happening. You got to close it out. Make sure enable cheats is enabled. You need that in order to connect for the patch. You can kind of just screenshot and copy things I have. Graphic settings, I recommend not turning like any of this on. Like don't, probably just do like a window, fit to window, full screen, widescreen. I'll turn it like that. Whatever you want to do, you could just leave. I just use it fit to window because I make like two little windows because I dual box, which I can explain a little bit too. Anything weird in here, so you can increase the internal resolution to like 1080p if you want, or whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever you can run. Texture filtering, I believe this is supposed to be on nearest and off. Any kind of filtering seems to basically break the game and do some text. You can kind of copy this. This stuff should be pretty good to use. You shouldn't have too many problems. You can also load textures, like so you can have like texture mods. There are some available in the Discord or some floating around. And then if you put them in there, it'll be like kind of the same thing. Your My Documents, that's not the right one. My Documents, PCX. You have a texture pack. So here's my texture pack. You just put it in here. You can pretty much, you're always just kind of putting everything in here and then it'll pull it. So here is the directory for my textures. So if I do load textures, it'll pull that up. I like to pre-cache them though. You can do copy this if you want. It doesn't really matter. None of that matters. Okay. Renderer, just leave it on automatic. It's usually going to use Vulkan anyway. It could use OpenGL, but it's going to probably use one of these two. And it's probably for the best. And then, you set it to your graphics card if you want. You can change audio settings, whatever you want. Okay. So what I recommend is you'll see the ISO here. What I would do is I would do properties from here and not from the general tab. So you can set the memory card and you're going to create a memory card. You're going to click this button. You're going to make a memory card and you're going to drag the memory card up to here. So you literally drag it and put it in. Okay. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's what you need to do. Okay. and you make sure you make a memory card. You have to make a memory card and create that before you log in. So you can see your cheat is in here. When you go to cheats, you should see this is enabled. This is how you connect to the game. That is the cheat we put in earlier. These are other cheats that I have that you can find on your own. I might show you a video how to do that later. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And the other thing you're probably gonna want to do is set up your controller. You can play with keyboard, but I suggest controller because that's what the game was originally made for. If you need help or guides on how to set up like your keyboard and mouse and stuff, that's not for me. I am not an expert with the emulator settings. I just know I know what works and what doesn't. And for me, I'm using my controller. So some tips here is by default, you could probably just use STL input or X input, whatever you're going to use. It doesn't really matter. They're basically just like simulated software inputs. The only thing to keep in mind is when you do these, your controller will also like control your mouse and stuff sometimes. It's kind of annoying. But you definitely want to go in here, controller port 1, and set DualShock 2, and then do all your bindings, okay? And then if you want a keyboard to be able to type in game, you do have to set it. So you hit USB port 1. So think of it, this is your PS2. You've maybe some of you were too young, you never had a PS2, but your PS2 had a controller port 1, controller port 2, and it had a USB port. It had 2 USB ports, right? So when I played this back in the day, I did play with a controller, but I also had a USB port for a keyboard from Logitech that I had plugged in. So that's how a lot of us played. So you just make sure you do HID keyboard, Konami, and then you're good to go. You don't have to set any bindings. You can just click automatic mapping if you want. You don't really want to map anything. Just leave it alone. So you have an extra keyboard. If you do keyboard default, it gets a little weird in order to use it as a typing thing. So one thing I will suggest is you use direct input. That's personally what I use. It gives me less issues. If you do dual box, which means you can run multiple of this emulator at the same time, which is what I do. That is the limit on the server, by the way. You cannot run any more than 2 per IP address. If you run more than 2, they will probably ban you, which is what it is. It's just because they want to encourage people to play in a party, in a group, because that is the core of the game. The core game function is a social MMO. You are supposed to group together. You're supposed to go grind mobs together. And if you could just fill all 4 roles by yourself, then there'd be no point in you even playing the game, to be honest with you. Because, the grouping and doing that is like the whole point of the game. I use this because it's a direct input source. So basically, whatever window I'm clicked on, that is the only window my controller will affect. If you do not use this and you use any of these other 2, when you have both screens, your controller will manipulate both screens at the same time. This is the only way to do it. So you can enable mouse mapping here, which allows you to map your mouse to do stick movement. So you would need to set up your keyboard and then use this for your mouse mapping. I don't use it. I don't know how good it is. I know people who do use it and they play this with keyboard. So, but I don't personally recommend it personally. My controller is not on. What is happening? All right, my controller's turning on. Sorry. I don't know. It wasn't like plugging in. All right, so once all that's done, you're pretty much good to go to get in. You check your network, change it to sockets, Ethernet or Wi-Fi, whatever you use. You don't have to change any of this stuff. It's all done through the cheat that we used. It's all internally done now. So you're going to go ahead and double click, open the game. Accept. So on startup, if you set up your memory card correctly, it's going to create a file and format, which is what you want it to do. And then you do have to do network setup. So you do have to go in here and go through it. It is all very straightforward. There's nothing special to do here. You're just kind of like clicking through the whole thing, automatic, 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 and then you're exiting. You can test your connection here to make sure you're actually connected. But if you did everything right, it should be fine. And it's basically just a formality because it needs to save it onto the memory card, and then you never have to do it again. Okay. The loading screens are killing me today. SOE, rest in peace. I noticed my text is a little messed up. I'll have to try to fix it later. It's different bilinear, trilinear like settings like mess up the text in the game. You can always just play around with those and reset. So if everything's fine, you should be able to just connect right away. They should connect right to the Sandstorm server. Yep, connected. Back in the day, you used to have to do this with dial-up. It was really fun times. See, you are on the Sandstorm server. You're going to want to create username. So you want to create your account here, right? And then you can log in, play, welcome to Sandstorm. There's only one server, and there's one of my characters. I also have another account. And so you go ahead and make a character. These are all the characters. There's multiple many characters. There's many different classes. And all those classes can play different ways. And you can build your character very different ways. There are training point systems. So you do add stats to your character. It does make a huge difference. And I will make videos over time talking about those. Every character has its own starting area. If you played EverQuest, you're going to be very familiar with the game. It's literally based on exactly like EverQuest. It's just like slightly different, slightly more streamlined. But we can go into this character real quick. Hilariously enough, there's no sound here because I dual box and one of them I turned the sound off. But like it randomly saves, it like randomly picks and chooses which of like the save states it wants to like reload the emulator in when I open it. It's really weird actually. If you start dual boxing, you'll see what I mean. But if you do want to dual box, make sure you set your controller to the direct input like I talked about earlier. Right. I am invis right now, so this is pretty much the game. Everything works, everything runs. I'm invis right now, that's why I look weird. Let me summon my pet. Like I said, I have like a texture mod on, and I have like a 16:9 mod on, and a couple other things. So it's going to look a lot different than yours might look, but that's fine. You can learn how to tweak those on your own. I'm not going to explain all of that. You can dual box, so literally all you need to do is run another instance. Okay, so we'll pull this over here. I'm going to run another instance of the game. You can kind of like put them side by side and try to get out. The thing you need to do, right, is you need to click on this, go to properties, right? And you need to change the memory card. So you need to create another set of memory cards. Okay. So I'm pretty sure I'm using EQOA 02 on here. So I need to load this one and I need this. This gets auto created, by the way, after you like set everything up. So you'll see these get auto created. You're only really making this one. You'll see these ones later, but you do have to use them. Cause I think I'm pretty sure it contains like the network info and stuff. Done. So this should be done. We're good. Close. Sometimes it does still mess up, but we'll see. It looks like it's fine. So this is why I said if you're going to dual box like this, you need to like 100% in the controllers and make sure you use direct input. Because otherwise, if I'm controlling this character, this screen will also be doing things. But this way I click on and off on which screen I want to work on. So you do have to make another account. So when you do set up this new one, you'll do the same thing you did to the first one, but you'll make a whole nother account. It's okay. So boom. And that's pretty much it. The other advanced settings is I want you to press escape on your keyboard. And I want you to go into settings, and things in here need to be shut off and changed. Make sure all of these are 100%, 100%. Enable cheats. This should all be all set up because you do this beforehand. Um, you want to turn off all this shit. Turn off all the pause stuff. Confirm, leave that on. Save backup, that's fine. But turn like all of this off. This stuff is super annoying. If you open a menu or anything, it pauses the game. If you pause the game or anything like that, the server will disconnect you. So turn all that stuff off. Um, turn all that off. Enable cheats. Everything here should be fine. That's fine. Everything here is fine. You can mess with this stuff as much as you want or not. Whatever you want to do, that's fine. You don't really need to mess with that. So in here, this is other controller settings. You can see all your map inputs here. I'm pretty sure this is how you would set up your keyboard if you wanted to do keyboard stuff. You can just set it all right here, what you want everything to be. And then you can set up your mouse input from what I showed you before. There's a whole bunch of macros. So you can set up macros in the game too using the emulator. I have no idea how to really set this stuff up, but a lot of people do. I've seen people dual box with like they have like a healer with them and they set it up to like auto cast heals after like a certain amount of time. So you can do a lot of things with that to kind of help yourself play the game. But what I would do is, let's see here. There's certain. Okay, so it's this one. So we're gonna go to the keyboard one. And these are the hotkeys for the emulator itself. I would disable all of these. You don't want to accidentally toggle like full screen constantly, like every time you type, right? So I was like typing in game and it would constantly like full screen or pause because they're bound by default. So let's say this is this, right? Let's just say there's a bunch of binds here. All you got to do is go hover over it and right click and it's gone. You leave the pause menu because you do want to access this sometimes, but like all of this stuff, I would just get rid of this. Just so you don't accidentally hit it and then fuck your game up. And that's pretty much it. That's all I got to really cover for the emulator and getting it set up. The rest is things that'll come in other videos and we'll talk about. But I can talk about how to play the game. Things that happen in the game, things you're gonna want to do. Quick start stuff. And guides for specific classes. But yeah, that's pretty much it.